Welcome back, audience. Hope you're doing good. As always, cheers. I'm having some green tea. And in this video, I want to talk about the most valuable currency, I suppose. There's something that it has the most value. In fact, even the word value means something specifically. Um, because have you ever asked this question? What is value? Like, what is value? Have you asked that question? And we watched why people do what they do, why people, you know, have money, um, or buy certain things, what for. It's like, what is value? And you'll find that there is a the two types of values. The basically anything that helps to escape from suffering, which let's call it entertainment, and and the other side, when you are observing the source of suffering, which automatically you're not propagating a thought, but you are a dissolving that process of thought, and upon the solution of the process of thought, there's that clarity out of which the enjoyment stems. Okay? And that's where everything starts. The real value, and the real value is the feeling that people get through the experience. Let's just define it. The feeling is the real value, the emotions that you feel, and stuff like that, right? You may see something that looks good, luxury even, and whatever, but there's void of feeling. People are not feeling anything except the dopamine hit of sharing the picture that is, in a nice background or whatever, and getting likes or whatever. You see what I'm trying to say? The entertainment side. This is why I'm splitting those entertainment and enjoyment as two separate forms of value. Anything that you do out of entertainment, you're going to be part of the matrix. And anything that you do through the enjoyment, you're going to be in a base reality. Okay? You may even share the same space as other people. And other people would be looking for that joy into some hedonistic pleasures and whatnot, and you're in the same space, already full of joy, having fun, you know, just whatever is going on, everything is enjoyable. So, and there's a way to live life directly, but it is you see, that's the it is such a trick, because it is, like I said, your consciousness can only function in one direction or the other. It cannot do both. And the the backwards flow of energy is thinking, worrying, having the anxiety, or some negative feeling, and then thinking, right? You're propagating that thought, right? You're creating that thought, by the way. Okay, this is why, for example, if you have a question, like what's happening in the world, there's all sorts of crazy thoughts, crazy ideologies are going around, governing systems that are backwards. Everything is backwards because of the energy flow, right? And you may look at this and it's like, what do you do? How do you live in this world? Because everything is backwards, and it's like you definitely don't want to participate in that. And how do you know, live in this world and enjoy, and not only enjoy, but also um, use that backwards as energy for your enjoyment, okay, and as a creative uh, energy force. And this way, you are actually diminishing that backwards energy flow within the matrix. Okay, so everywhere you go, everything you do, there's going to be this process that's it's seemingly um, appearing in, like, maybe somewhere in your chest, or some feeling. And with when you observe long enough, you start recognizing these and you start catching them, and you know how to observe it. And sometimes it's hard to look at it because it's such a, this may be like a disorganized energy, but you are becoming that eye, which is you start looking at that energy. Say, I'm not going to look. You see, it's always like this. You either can flip the eye on it or flip from it. And if you flip on it, then there's a dissolution process that's going on of whatever that is, that negative thought, that negative feeling that was about to create something negative, right? You are alchemizing that. So this is the best that you could do, because you are having fun, you're alchemizing that energy. That happens, it happens less of that. People lose interest in that. You see? And more people are start looking for something that is real. Now, not everybody can alchemize these energies, not, and that's not. It's not necessary that everybody should alchemize these energies. This is why, like what I'm talking about, it's not for everybody, and it's not necessary for everybody. But there are people that you know there are these pneumatic, hyalic, and what do you call them, psychic souls, right? And it appears to be true. And pneumatic souls are the ones in charge of the alchemy. Okay, and which, by the way, by the looks of in the world, like you can see, there's a lot of work to do. And like if you're one of those souls that really experience things very deeply and very sensitive to all sorts of energy just coming into your system, you better know how to look at them and how to alchemize them. Otherwise, they're just going to start propagating through you. You see? And some souls that are like that, they just accept this and say, well, I'm just going to run with it completely. And those are usually the souls that are running the matrix. But they're not running the reality. They're only running this little box called matrix. And as long as the people are subscribed to this seeking motion, then you are a puppet master of them. But even that is such a boring thing. Even that is such a boring thing, to be a puppet master of your own little world that you created and not being in the base reality. It's lame. It's extremely lame. And the very premise of this game is really to use the energy of the matrix that has been stolen from the holistics and create this holistic life. And the only way you can do this, not through thought, the only way you can do this is you keep on observing that energy that you may call suffering or whatever that is. Right? I know this is kind of, not a common understanding. But this is what works, right? And do you want that thought to be born? All thoughts are kind of negative thoughts. Even the thought that, like, well, I have to become somebody, I have to be this and I have to be that, like, even that is like, no, you don't want to become somebody. That's just going to be an image that's going to be created, and it's not you. You already are something in relationship to the world, the whole world, in a perfect way, and you should experience life like that, that the real life, the real you, who you truly are. And that's why, like, I'm really excited about this consciousness calibration thing, because every person that I dealt with, I saw the transition in the real time, and this way I can see it working, and I can see that a person learned a faculty that never came across, and immediately there was a relief, and immediately there's this clarity and understanding that, oh, I either live this way or that way, and that way makes no sense. And then you start learning this way, and that is at the fundamental level, letting that energy propagate as a thought, as a thinking process. And on the other level is letting that energy dissolve and recoagulate, if you like, into this prima materia or philosopher's stone, which what you may call a clarity itself. It is very spacious and a crisp feeling. Philosopher's stone, you can call it, you can call all sorts of other things. In the literature, you can find them, like, archangels and whatnot. These are states of consciousness. And the primordial state of consciousness, prima materia, is what people call Jesus. This is why I really don't like when people anthropomorphize this state as if it's a person. It is not a person. I think the Bible did a damage to by trying to communicate this process through stories. And maybe back then no one else would understand it any other way. But even then, the Bible could be understood only when you're going through it yourself, and then you can find the reference points to it, and you say, like, well, I don't know what that is. I know how that's the state of consciousness. Okay, so everything makes it very simple. Everything is, what's talked about in Bible. These people are states of consciousness. The challenge, the way to overcome the challenge it's a type of game. It's a quite intense game, the highest possible intensity and passion. This is what Joseph Campbell was saying, follow your passion. He just didn't say that the passion is going to be hiding right before the pain, or right after the pain or pressure or whatever you call that angst that's happening within you, which you, through the observation of it, the passion of Christ, if you will, appears. Okay, that's real white passion. And it appears where you just looking at it and burning through it. And like I said, there's 4 types of attentions that you have to find to unlock that. And I'm figuring that out and teaching other people, because your consciousness can do that, can do all these 4 types of attentions that is usually required to resolve that thing. Okay, and then upon appearance of that energy, that's called peaceful bliss. And there's degrees to it too, there's an intensities to it too. And sometimes you experience this a little bit like just a little sparkle, and it's like, whoa, and that's just a little tiny chip of it, and then sometimes you can go more into it, depending on what kind of time fractal intensity that you're living through in that moment, it can be super, super intense. And but there is this starting point, the launch the launch pad, if you will, upon alchemizing those energies. And then from there, theurgy is what starts. You are now playing with these energies and creating all sorts of states of consciousness, which is the real value. You have the diamond, now with the diamond you can create all sorts of gems. This is the real value, okay? Because it doesn't matter really what's happening in front of you. You are so intimately in touch with it, and everything is directly experienced, okay? And me, like, personally, like, I've been self-sabotaging sometimes, because sometimes you get to this point that it's unbelievable, life seems like like a trip, and then I sabotage it, and then I do something stupid to sabotage it, and so then I would just go, and then I would crash, and then I would build up and I would crash. And I've been in this type of cycle. I'm just like, trying to boot up this nuclear reactor, but then I have these moments of crashing it. And yes, I mean, you can say that when you go at a higher intensity, the challenges are more difficult. And it is true. And intensity is real. And you can call it whatever, the size of that philosopher's stone or whatever, but intensity is real because time spirals like that, And at the deepest point, at the root point, there is the highest point of intensity, the highest frequency it can possibly be, the speed of light, and then complete and total quanta. And at that point, you are in this quanta and that speed of light, and there's a stillness and emotion in one, which that is the highest where you could be. And I would describe this, I don't know, sometimes intuitively, when you're in that state, the ideas just bubble up, and it shows you things, and you start clocking and putting things together, and it's like, oh, because you, for example, when you feel that state, there is a certain type of geometrical shape that you take. You see, like, okay, only this geometrical shape can withstand that much energy running through it. And then you know what the sacred geometry and Metatron actually means. It is that sacred geometry that can hold the highest, vibration, most pure vibration. And it's almost like a returning point, or that base out of which everything else kind of stems from. Now, in theurgy is fascinating world, because I'm just learning, because as soon as I get into this world and I start experimenting and I'm starting, seeing what's it like in this world, what happens is, self-sabotage, or I can't really withstand that level of intensity with the current level of discipline. That's what I concluded in the end. And I decided, like, oh, I see. At this, like a mediocre level, I can mess around, it's fine, and not be that disciplined. On the highest level, it's not like that. Like, you cannot. Okay, there are levels to it for sure, and at the highest level, you cannot mess around. Meaning what? You cannot do any kind of eating, the forbidden apple, forbidden fruit, the tree from the good of evil. You cannot bite into it. And that is a type of using anything to pacify your state of consciousness externally. Like I said, that's a false light. And that I include that. To that, I include weed. I was one of those people who were just like, a little, not smoking weed is, smoking weed every day is stupid, and not smoking weed at all, it's kind of stupid as well. But you may have a phase in your life where that is so, but then you get to this, and where I am right now, that is no longer the case. I cannot smoke weed at this high level of clarity, because when you have that clarity, smoking weed just brings you down. But when you are like, really down, smoking weed kind of brings you up. But when you're naturally higher than the weed can actually, or freer, I should say, then getting high is just takes that freedom away. And usually what happens is that you start seeking these hedonistic um, pleasures. And when you're at the highest level of intensity and it starts seeking these hedonistic pleasures, oh my God, like when you have that light passion and it crashes, and if it crashes into the dark passion, oh, this is nasty. You know, this is why like it takes a lot to keep your shit together. Um, and thank God, lately I more or less I could keep the shit together, because dark passion, right? And this is why, like this light passion, without a right type of discipline, could very quickly just move into that dark passion. This is why it's such a curious thing, because I don't know, like I hear people talking about like people like flipping somebody who's just could be like really um you know radiant, beautiful, and everything, and then something happens and they're just like complete monster. Um, Not to say that you never need to be that kind of strict, but it still, even that needs to be sort of like attained. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it cannot be loose. That level of intensity, even if you have to impose discipline upon yourself or discipline on somebody else, that's through that intensity is supposed to be a controlled discipline. It is a lot of power streaming through you, but only the right amount is being used. Because if it just goes off of it, and then, you know, and then you may do something that you regret. Okay? So that's the intensity. And I'm learning and I'm getting to this, and I'm realizing that, okay, in the past I could have smoked weed and everything was all right, but now I cannot. Just not working for me anymore, like it's just messing things up. Without it, it's much better and much clearer, and I value clarity more, because before the weed would give me clarity. Now it just clouds everything, because the clarity is already there naturally. And you'll also find that as you go into deeper into the intensity, you'll notice that you're going to have to be more and more disciplined. And but that discipline is kind of enjoyable, because it's like, hey, it's just like a you need to have a frame to hold this together, right? This is why, like, and that is so valuable to you, because it feels so good, so freeing and so liberating, that you say like, well, that discipline is just, it's nothing. Of course I'm going to do that, because look at what I can hold, the jewel. To create an environment for that jewel to flourish. And so, okay, so now if that becomes your guiding light, or that's what you value, okay, then you're not going to do anything that sabotages it. And like I said, that lately I'm coming to this conclusion. I've tried to sort of like live in a hybrid way. I'm saying like, well, maybe like maybe I could live like a bit of like a traditional normal life, which is not really normal or traditional. It's just the matrix way, but like, oh, because a lot of people live this way, maybe I could belong. And as soon as I try to do that, and I'm like, oh shit, no, it's It's crashing all of my energy. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So then your values change drastically. Then you don't value. And one of those values that, like smoking weed, kind of goes out the window. Um, and also, I have to say, sex as you know it goes out the window too. Because um, sex as you know it, right? I mean, I don't want to expand too much on this subject, but living through this side, sex means completely different thing. Okay, it's it changes to what you would call connection, and the connection would always be like appropriate, and it's a type of energy exchange that is, you can call it like, making love and whatever, and it could be very slight, and that just looks like two people vibing and having a laugh or a humor or just enjoying each other's company, right? with the with other, connection is much deeper, and like I said, with some souls is going to be, cannot cross that particular layer because it's the type of connection, and then when some souls can go really really deep, and I think with the one soul you can go ultimately deep, and this is what I think people call twin flame. But nothing what people are talk about is twin flame. It's not real, guaranteed. I know that this type of thing would upset a lot of people, but why am I saying this? Because I can see this hallucinatory thing, right? Where it's created in your mind. You're projecting that reality, which, by the way, this is what I wanted to say today as well. Because we're talking about the values. And so you're projecting a wishful thinking and saying, well, that is a manifestation. That's the way and you project things onto people. And you're kind of forced the reality upon this way. And I mean, within the matrix, if you go like really evil, you do have power, and then you can impose something that is not fundamentally true, and you can make it so temporarily. And so that, how does it look like? It looks like, people with somebody that are not meant to be, people doing some sort of vocations, whatever, that are not meant to be. That's the thing, that the soul in the matrix is, they're always doing something that they're not meant to be doing. They're with the wrong people, you know and they saw that true passion, the true following of your passion, which includes everybody that you're connected to, what you do, everything for that comfortable illusion in the matrix. But how can you do this to me? Like, well, I can understand somebody doing this to me. Like, I didn't have a frame of reference. I just lived life, and I had this knowing feeling that, fuck, this is not real. How is that life? How the fuck is that life? Why the person that I feel love for is mistreating me? Like, it make no sense to me. Why would anybody do this? It's just that I was looking at this picture and I was like, what the fuck is this? This isn't, it cannot be real. I'm looking at the people, how they interact, and the families, and just like they're quite disconnected, and everything's kind of super superficial, and it's like they acting through the role, and some of them are complaining and saying, oh my god, I was like, why are you doing this? Then like, well, but this is live, and this is supposed to be this way, isn't it? I was like, what the fuck, why are you doing this? And with the brief moments when just stars aligns perfectly, then there is this little bit of like, everybody's chill, and then there's some genuine connection that could be sparking there, but then just poof, it disappears and it's over, back to the arguments again. So no, 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 no. This is not the base reality. It makes no sense to me. And of course, it was something that I had to do to not to create this, because I realized that I'm projecting that reality. But look, like, um, the way it works is that there's one that is a, the subconscious energy that is kind of disorganized, creates the disorganized world already, and then there's another layer on top of it is trying to compensate for it. And so this is why you project things onto people. And it's like, well, and then when you try to project things onto people, sometimes it can work temporarily, but then it just mask wears off, right? Because it was just a projection, it was not real. So I realized that it is all because I'm looking this way. But when I start looking at where it is coming from, you know, then the light starts shining the other way. And then I could look at people and everybody directly with my heart. Now project things onto them, but directly with my heart. And it's not easy to do that sometimes. There's like a deliberate type of listening that I call it. It's this type of spaciousness that you're listening somebody with your heart. Because what you're doing, you're not only, first of all, experiencing the darkness that they may be harboring, which is dissolving. But once that darkness dissolves, then you can get to experience who they really are, the true soul, and how they really are. So instead of projecting reality onto people, look what's already there. At first, you're going to find a call. I mean, given just look where you live, right? Like, I mean, to find the person that is like you, who are, you know, alchemizing those energies and know how to do it and do it daily and never slip and whatever, it's super rare. Like, even I've been at it for, you know, I'm rookie, right? Like, I'm just sharing my experience because I know that this is um the the way, if you look, because it's so fascinating. And this is why I like what Krishnamurti was talking about. He's the only one who was pointing it directly at it. Well, then I shouldn't say only one of the few. And so letting that germinate and showing what's already there, right? And this is why that real looking and that real listening is so powerful, because it burns through the crap. Because start looking at somebody first, and then it's all sorts of, you know, energies that bubbling up, you know, and and thoughts and all that stuff, right? And I don't like it when that happens, man. Like, and you have to kind of flip yourself and start listening to the person, because when they come into your field, they will try to run this thing. The hard thing is about it that um that the person may be convinced that that is so, okay, and that's why it's hard, because like you can see that they're trapped in it, but they're convinced that it's so. And it's, you can see that, okay, they convinced it is so because it helps them to cope with the situation, but they could live life directly as well. So you may need to spend a lot of time with somebody like this, really listening to them until you burn everything through, and then there's the real soul starts shining through, and everything that he said up to that point will just become completely obsolete. And you know, at least for the moment, you're gonna see the real person, the real soul, and you're gonna interact in a real way. then they may go away, go back to sleep again. See this, that's why, like, I don't know, man. The At least if I could live consistently without a slip up, with a good discipline, and maintaining my uh, alchemy and theurgy properly, that would be a victory in itself, by itself. Um, and then if you could, on top of that, be able to be with other people, and also look at them, not projecting anything onto them, not participating in that stream of consciousness that projects all sorts of negativity, which is not truly what they are, but it's just an energy that is attached to them, and burn through that energy. It's just basically like, almost like a parasite. You burn through the parasite, and you can still see, you can see what it really is there. Okay, you can see the true self. And that is not a projection. That's who they really are already. Now, that's the difference between direct experience and projecting something onto somebody, right? People always project things onto you if they don't live like this, or you project things onto people if you don't like this. Okay, that projection is not real. That person is not really like that. Is the shadow, if you will, and you are not really like that. And there, it is a type of, like, a parasite there, that's creating that type of reality. Okay. And I've had this annoyance with people where I could see them, like, because I think this is what happens. You get to this point, and you see people moving backwards and seeking, and and trying to do all these things, and you, of course, you can relate to that because you've just been doing that all the time. But now that you have, like, a little bit of clarity, and it's like, okay, well, how the fuck you know you know that that's not the way. um but still, like, the answer is still, like, just hang out with people as a normal human being, and start looking and listening, like, deeply, and letting the true self flower. I don't have any better way than this. To look at them and keep on saying that, like, what they're doing is wrong, is not helpful. um Even though, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's helpful. Like, I'm questioning this right now. I mean, if there has to be discipline on the external side, like, like I said, you see it on yourself that without external discipline, internal alchemy is not sustainable. You have to have internal external discipline. The same way with other people, you have to have some discipline on them, because if you don't have a discipline, then they won't be able to withhold their own light, right? Because if they have a habit to do something, and getting distracted with something, or start seeking something, or doing, all things, and if there's no, and say, like, no, let's not go this way, let's go this way, right? Redirecting the energy, just like you do it with yourself, you can do it with others. And this is what I do, by the way. So this is like, book a session, because this direct observation, or the way of direct living, is the way. You end up being that keeps burning up, that um, parasite that keeps on creating a negative reality. You understand? And it's such an elegant and powerful process, that yes, like again, it is super powerful process. You discipline yourself, you alchemize the energies. People around you, you show them the way. Discipline the people around you if you care about them, if they're part of your tribe, and keep redirecting their energy until they find their way. And then you have a buddy, a friend who can share the space with you for real, feeling that connection that is real. Okay? Then your state or like your city, you're gonna have to discipline the place that you live, because look, I try to do like a you know run the business and stuff like that, and it got to the point where like fuck, I don't want to participate in this rigged monopoly game. Like I like playing games, but I don't like playing rigged games, because then to win the rigged game you have to be crooked. I was like, I don't want to be crooked. So there's just few laws that need to be changed and reinforced, and everything is fair again. It's not a lot, and that can be done. So, but you're gonna have to clean up. That's why I say, like, you clean up yourself, you clean up your friends, or I mean, you teach them how to clean up themselves if they're done playing games and whatever. Then you have to do the same thing with the place that you live, your community, your district, your state, and your country, and eventually the world. Everything's going to have to be like this. So this is my approach right now, that I know that if I want to run a successful business, I cannot have that particular environment to be corrupt, because then it affects the business. And this way, little by little, you can effectively, without conflict, make the change that is better, more harmonic, more, something that works and things like that. And it's a type of quite silent process. And this is why I really like this approach, because there is no preaching. It's just simple. If you're in front of me, I can show it to you. I can direct your attention. I can show it to you how it all works, why that little energy that is kind of vibrating there, creating these negative thoughts in you, and you can just watch it and see it disappear. The same energy not only disappears, it starts streaming as joy. Okay. So, and that is it. And then the stronger that intensity is rising, the more discipline you're going to have to keep on life. The more you're going to have to cut this habit away, cut that habit away. Anything that was taking your attention away from enjoyment to the entertainment will have to be cut away. Okay? And sometimes, like, if people are hanging out with you, you don't even have to say, hey, do you want me to show you something? Well, a lot of people say, like, yeah, and then you can show it to them. But even if they not at that level, you can still listen to them with your heart, and you can still be alchemizing the energy and making everything all right. Like getting to their soul. I think this is the most powerful thing that you can do with anybody in your life, is to get to their soul, and don't bother relating without it, because it's just going to be this dysfunctional way of relating, which is always going to have to be resolved through some form of lust and or like rage. Okay, that's how this energy is being always resolved, because it's always conflict based. Just because there's no conflict, it does not mean that there's no discipline. right? But there's just no wastage of that energy. And I don't have a better plan than this. And honestly, like, I'm just barely trying to get myself stabilized. And maybe you know, but that's, of course, uh, it's uh, it's a lot given the fact that I'm fresh to this game. And like I said, it is one of the most difficult things that I've had to do. Um, but the only thing about it that you can tell that it's worth it, and it's just not worth in giving away that energy. It's the value itself. I didn't even get to the point of like what can I do with this, but I don't really wanna, like, at this point. I just know that there's something powerful there. I just don't know how to use it properly, you know? And I know that this is not something that could be taught. Somebody could guide me, but I don't know anybody, who's such a gangster alchemist. But I know I'm figuring it out, and I'm getting better and better at it. And I know when I'm figuring it out, it's directly through direct experience, and I can see how it all works, and I don't have to borrow any kind of knowledge from anybody. That's why it's such a tight lock on it, because there's no dependence on anybody on that level. And in the world, of course, in the physical world, not only that you depend on everybody, you are in a cohesive organism with everybody that is in your field. So you need everybody to create something as an organism. But inside the heart, you don't depend on anything external. It's just directly from the source. Okay, so I think that's it for today. That's the highest form of value. It's not a person. Second coming of Christ is not an event that people are expecting to happen. Everything in the literature that they read and all this is all nonsense, absolute garbage and rubbish and nonsense. Because I mean, none of these people who interpret the scriptures should even be allowed to do so. I don't know. I mean, in the Matrix, it's all circus anyway. But I'm just saying that there's nothing to do with that. Second coming, it just only means that you have stabilized that energy within yourself. That's all it means. You have stabilized that energy within yourself. Because when it's first discovered, that's the first coming of Christ. We just discover it. Because you've never touched that before, directly, not through psychedelics or anything like that. Because like I said, that's still a mock-up, but directly. But you're gonna have to go through some eye of a needle to even touch that energy. When you touch it, then you're like, oh, okay, what the fuck? Like that is the basis of the reality? I can live with that. And then it kind of goes away, and then it's like, where the fuck is this gone? And then you have to put your attention back away, and you see that, like, oh, I'm not just gonna go back on that throne so easily. I have to defend it. I have to fight up some demons. And as long as you're living in this reality, you always gonna be fighting some demons. This is what another thing that I've accepted is, like, as long as I'm living on this planet, the fight is not over. And I'm cool with that, because it means it's a type of digestion of this old looping energy and creation of something new. And other, apparently, other um, planets and other civilizations already figured that out. They figured that out of how it is done. And external discipline, internal alchemy. That includes powerful military, like incredibly developed technology. Um, just Renaissance keep on exploding all the time. It's a type of real civilization that is that's flourishing, and they're not weak because, of course, like I said, you cannot get to that point without realizing that external discipline is necessary. So that's what I I do feel, not only believe, but I feel within my heart that there is a holistic society that is possible to be on this planet, but only when enough people like you and me are living this directly. No bullshitting around, no more seeking, no more nonsense, right? And I know there's quite a few people that are beginning to live directly, and you cannot live directly without needing to alchemize that energy, but you're so good at it that it becomes easier, easier, and easier. And like I said, I think that everybody can see that directness, but we're all kind of maybe living on a different intensity octaves. This is why, like, if one person is very high intensity and meeting another soul who's a little bit lower intensity, you cannot ask that soul to connect on a very high intensity because there's no wiring there to withstand that much of the energy flow. Okay. And I think that's the closest thing to the truth that I can say today. This is it. This is the end of all sorts of industries. You know, all sorts of. This is it. This is it. This is you. Direct way of life and direct living. That's it. That is it. And you find the desires there already, what you're supposed to be doing. And that external discipline part is usually part of what you do. It's like, what can you do something externally to propagate this holistic way of life? And those are the things that you do. Those are the things that are necessary to do. But there's not the wastes of energy. You don't argue with anybody on the street on the belief systems or anything like that. Why? You just go and affect the law. You change the law, and with internal alchemy and external discipline, you will be able to do this. You're going to have to alchemize some energies because there's going to be resistance. But eventually, you're going to dig through the hearts and souls of people, and they're going to start seeing the same thing as what you're seeing, and say, like, yeah, that is the way. And everybody's going to agree that is the way. And you see, like, on this planet, in this reality, it's a thing. Like, you have to learn this direct living, right? Like, this is how you have to learn, because everybody is so asleep. But normally, this is just the way you do. This is just the way you live your life. You know that you don't flip back. You never look back. In that type of sense. Because even if the past memory comes on, the way you want to do it is you want to look at it completely at the root cause, because there's a memory some image, whatever thought, whatever you find the root cause of it. This might be some odd feeling. Look at it fully. It dissolves, and then that it loses the charge. Processed. And external discipline is necessary for you not to get off the rails. Super, super important. All right, guys. So if you need to book a session, book a session. I'm gonna build a little website and see if I can get more people. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can get more people to work like this with this type of directness, and maybe key people that we'll see. Something will come up to me. I don't know what, but something will come up, and yeah, keep on keeping on. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.